Coming to you from across the multiverse, this is the Marvel Infinity Rewatch Podcast. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Marvel Infinity Rewatch Podcast, where we are rewatching the most successful movie franchise in history from the very beginning. This week, we're going to hail Hydra and take down S.H.I.E.L.D. with Captain America the Winter Soldier. Before we get into this, y'all, do me a favor, get down there, hit like on this video. Joining me to discuss this film is YouTuber and Marvel superfan Joe of Muscles in the Multiverse. Joe, welcome back to the Infinity Rewatch Podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again.
So this is a movie that you specifically requested, I believe, and I don't blame you. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, largely considered to be one of the best of the MCU ever. Like if people rank them, it's like I think they rank it S tier, and we're gonna get into this and figure out why people feel this way. Captain America: Winter Soldier came out in 2014. It's the sequel to Captain America: The First Avenger, and I get you could sort of see it as a sequel to like that first phase of the the Avengers coming together in 2012. So it was directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers, who by now everyone knows about them if you like the MCU because they went on to make really great movies in the franchise. The screenplay was by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who again also are known for some pretty great movies in the MCU. This, of course, it stars Chris Evans, who comes back as Steve Rogers / Captain America, but also we get Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Kobe Smulders, Frank Grillo, Emily Van Camp, Haley Atwell, Toby Jones, Jenny Agutter, Robert Redford, and of course Samuel L. Jackson coming back as Nick Fury. So again, we're starting to, at this point in the MCU, we're seeing star-studded casts, like very large, deep benches, if you will, for acting. So, but Joe, what was this movie all about?
All right, our basic synopsis is we've got Captain America joining forces with Black Widow and Sam Wilson, who soon to be and is eventually Falcon, after Nick Fury was attacked and killed, exposing that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been infiltrated by Hydra and they can basically not trust anyone. In their effort of revealing and stopping this villainous plot by Hydra to murder people who would basically go against them, they're also presented with an unexpected foe, the Winter Soldier.
Yes. The winner. Say, and here's the thing: if you were a comics fan before this, oh, you knew what was going down. Like you knew what was going. But if you were new, and Joe, like you can correct me if you're
Yeah, this
not.
was me.
You were not a comic book fan. You were not a comic reader before the MCU, right? So before you saw this movie,
Correct.
were you aware of this character at all, the Winter Soldier?
No, and well, we'll touch on it later, but I didn't even see this when it first came out.
Okay.
So this was like even much later um in like the timeline.
Right. Yeah, this was and I would even say that this is a movie where people like Avengers were people are like this shit is so like this is wild comic book stuff, but this is one of those ones where it's like, oh, it gets serious too. Like I don't think people understood that comic books can range in tone and topics. It can range, it's not just people in capes. There's a lot more to it than that. And it was kind of brilliant having Shield be the focus of this, but also Black Widow because, you know, she's an assassin, but you don't really understand that when you just watch her in the other movies prior to this. You really kind of get more of an understanding that now Shield is doing some dirty work, and but they have been sort of been led by the nose, if you will, by their enemies. It's a very interesting as people, a spy thriller, but also a caped spy thriller. What did you think was good about this movie?
I mean, there's so much. I mean, you could
Yeah,
honestly
it's
just
an
say the whole thing.
unfair
But
question.
I mean, yeah, I mean, so many good action sequences. The whole movie is filled with them, but there's just so many. Every single one you watch, you're like, okay, that was good. How are they going to top this next one? Um, Going back to like what you said, not knowing the backstory, um, and watching it, I thought that the plot was actually thought out really well because I had no idea what was happening. And so I didn't even really have an idea. Like they kept you guessing, part of that
Mm-hmm.
like spy thriller, espionage kind of thing. And I had no idea who the Winter Soldier was um, at the time until obviously you get a little reveal here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then honestly, the the musical score was really,
Mm-hmm.
really done well, especially the kind of like chilling, but the Winter Soldier theme, like when it comes on,
Right.
it's like, oh yeah,
That's, I mean, it's, like I said, it's an unfair question. There's a ton of good stuff. Like the screenplay, this screenplay for this movie is phenomenal. Like it understands, introducing, a new character or at least a recontextualized character. There's tension. You're right. Sometimes you don't know where this is going, right? There's many, it marries fantastical elements and like really more on the ground, like, boots on the ground sort of stuff. And also, I think this movie, the screenwriters really understand Cap. They understand Cap. They understand Sam. Like every character, I feel like they know and understand what makes them tick, and to make them all interact in a way. Like one of my my criticisms of Avengers, as much as I love the movie, is that Joss Whedon doesn't understand the characters as well as the individual movies understand them. He presents them in a way that it doesn't feel as true as when you're in the movies themselves. So Cap here he's a bit different than he was in Avengers. I love the screenplay here. Action was on point. There was no bad action sequences in this at all. Anytime there's any action going on, and it's well presented, and I understand what's going on. It's not like messy CG or anything like that. I get what's going on, and the hand to hand shit is dang. I mean, it's there's the fights between Bucky and Steve are like some of the best. Like only Shang-Chi really does hand to hand better than in this movie. Um Also, I like that they shut down that whole romantic tie between
yeah,
Nat and Steve. They
right,
shut it down immediately, and in a way that's
yep,
not weird. Neither of them want it, and people always want to pair up the male and female leads. And she's just like, "No, we're just friends," and he's like, "No, we're just
yep,
friends. You don't float my boat like that." And it's all good, and it's just a
yep,
mutually respect. Like it's just a good, respectful relationship, and I love that she kept trying to push him off on Agent 13.
right.
What do you think was bad about this movie? Again, unfair question.
Again, it is unfair, but I had to pick out some stuff. So at the beginning, I really felt like when they were flying over the ship, and part of it was obviously like CG,
Hmm.
it was kind of dark. I just felt like it wasn't that great. Like it made me feel like I was in like a cutscene for 007 on like N64. Um, and then I get it's like I get it's a movie, but there were two times that Sam basically either should have been killed or severely injured. Like when he rolled out of the car when they
Oh
were
yeah,
being chased by Bucky. I was
yeah.
like, you literally just rolled like 20 times. Pretty sure you'd be dead. And then when he fell, and he put when Bucky ripped his wings off and he was
Hmm.
falling, and he put a chute on, but it was like literally he
Just
probably had
barely.
it open for like
Yeah,
less than 5 seconds, and he just stumbled down. He's okay. Those are like my nitpicky bad things.
yeah. I mean, there are times in this you're like pretty sure the human body can't withstand that. But we're in the Marvel universe, so I'm not gonna worry too. Like the times I saw Cap, and I was like, I'm pretty sure you killed him. Like the way you hit him with
Yeah,
that shield, he probably dead. Like there's no way. I've seen you launch people across the room with a punch. I think you killed that guy. Anyway, no, I feel that there's a little bit of weird CG. It's not. It doesn't kill me too much. There are certain times I'm like, this is a sound stage. I know this is a green screen bit, but it just the story's so good. I don't really hit on it too much. I think my bad was beyond the CG. That was a bit weird. Crossbones never being Crossbones in this was, I was like, come on. Like, because remember, I'm a comic book guy, but from before this movie came out. So I was like, oh shit, we're getting Crossbones in this bitch. Let's go. He never puts the skull mask is on. You know, he's not a racist Nazi. He's a Hydra goon, basically. He's a really good Hydra goon, but he's just a goon.
Yep.
And we don't really get to see him as Crossbones in this one. Now, of course, they do it later, but they do Crossbones dirty. He's supposed to be a foil for Steve Rogers, and he is not. It's clear he was in that elevator. He ain't that guy. It's unfortunate. Beyond that, I just want to understand how the hell all this shit can happen in DC and the city's still fine. Because now, did you see, like, it's like there's 3 helicarriers. These helicarriers are huge and they're exploding. Oh, so they conveniently all go into the water? Sure. Okay. I believe that.
Yeah. That was going to be my weird take. Like, all 3 of them are, like you said, exploding, falling down with debris, like a SpaceX explosion.
Right.
and
Elon wishes.
Yeah. And like, we literally not hitting anyone, like nothing. That's, like you said, it conveniently falls into the river or into like another building. And I'm just
it convenient, not just any another building, the Shield building. So I was like, how did you? I'm sorry, I don't believe that. That's all the rest of DC people in the rest of DC is just like, man, it's a good thing that's happening way over there. It's next door. Okay. Okay, sure.
Nothing else. I mean, there would have been like repercussions from everything falling into the river that had to have done something to everyone else, right?
You know, well, here's the other thing is they're sitting up there shooting. And now remember, the helicarriers, they're on different, like, they're shooting at each other, right? They ain't hitting each other all you remember, they're flying around. There's bullets flying all over. DC should have been messed up. They're trying to hit Falcon, hitting every. What happened? What about? Okay, this is my nerdy brain, but like, y'all got to be fucking up the airport. You know, Reagan is a major airport. Y'all got to be, because all of these guns are shooting all around the DC metro area, and that's okay. They ain't hit Congress. You know, okay. I believe you. And hit one. That was that's bad, but also / weird.
Yeah.
On the other weird things, at least on my side, why they kept making all this sexual tension between Natasha and Steve, and it gets weird as they keep pushing it on us, like until eventually they're eventually like, no, we're just friends for real though. Even
at the end.
Yeah.
Even at the end, he's like, you should call that nurse.
Yeah.
And still kisses him on the cheek.
I'm just like, nah. But I was also thinking like, yeah, but Banner would never stand for that. Like, it's not like he's going to close the deal either, but still.
Right.
Do you notice also the other weird thing? Joe Russo loves being in his own movies. You know?
Yeah, I saw he was the
doctor,
right?
Yeah. I was like, so you're the doctor? Are you the same guy in Endgame? I'm just curious. Is he in Endgame? I'm just okay. Is that the same? Because like he's in Endgame. I'm just like, is he the same guy? Right? Is he the same guy in Endgame? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't know.
I think he's like always someone different. I feel like, but he always likes to insert himself in.
Yeah, I mean, you can Tarantino it if you want to, I suppose. Another weird thing. This is just, again, my nerd brain. Who's paying for all this? I really want to know. Who the hell look, we can't get books for the schools. You know, we can't, you know, we can't pay for arts programs, but we can pay for 3 fucking helicarriers and all of that shit underneath the Potomac. And this, like, it's wild to me. Like, in the MCU universe, y'all just got money to throw around, and then the shit blows up. They blow up all of it. Yeah, All of it's blown because remember, because it crashes into the underwater thing. Everything's blown up, and at the end they're like, "We should send you to jail, Natasha. You need to send to jail whoever the fuck paid for it. Said let's pay for all this. That's trillions of dollars. Where's this money coming from? This shit is it's wild. It's I looked at
Just to
that.
add,
I looked at that. I'm like, ain't no way, y'all. Who built this and when did you build it? Y'all couldn't. Okay. Yeah,
just to add insult to injury again, all the collateral damage cost.
it was everybody died. I mean, who's paying for all this? I'm just trying to figure this. Elon is not. MCU Elon. MCU Elon is dodging this fucking bill if
sure.
he can help it. Like, God dang, it's wild. I do. There's one last weird thing, and this is more of a joke for me. I don't know why. I've seen this movie many times. I just realized there's a little Sam Jackson joke at the very end of the movie when they're at the gravestone, the Nick Fury gravestone. Did you notice that it says the path of the righteous man quote, and it says Ezekiel 25:2. That's a direct reference to Jules from Pulp Fiction, and that when he would always quote that before he shoot. Until last night, I did not notice that they put that little Tarantino reference. That was great, but also
I didn't even see that. I think I mainly focused on his name, and it was done.
Yeah, it was like, again, I've seen it many times. The last night was the first time I noticed that, and that's a cool little reference. I'm like. So I was like, are y'all saying that Nick Fury is a fan of Pulp Fiction? What's happening here? Okay, you know what? It's just it's a cute little thing. I get it. So how do you think this movie fits into the MCU?
Well, obviously, we're coming off of the heels of Avengers. Steve is kind of reckoning with what life is actually like in the real world after he's been, obviously frozen for so long. And then he's just kind of keeping it low. But now we're introduced to the Winter Soldier, and we kind of, obviously, everything that they thought was true about S.H.I.E.L.D. And being an organization they can trust and that Nick Fury was a part of is something that they can't trust. And basically, it was presented as you can't trust anyone, especially like in that scene at the end where they told him to launch the rockets, and then Sharon Carter did that, and then you had just basically everyone just like Spider-Man meme pointing at each other with guns.
That does change that meme a little bit, but
yeah.
I think you're hitting on a good point there, but they're speed running something that's very important about the Captain America character, and they have to because it's the movies. They only got a certain amount of time, but people who don't know the comics, who just see the name Captain America, they don't understand that Steve Rogers is sometimes an iconoclast. He's very much counter to rah rah yay America, right? Sometimes he hangs the shield up. Sometimes he's just like, no, I'm nomad or I'm on my own, because who is in charge and their values and their goals don't align with what I think America should be, which is why Steve continues to be like he's the Superman, if you will, of the Marvel Comics universe, just because his values are so specific that when the U.S. government isn't in line with that, he goes off. This is why he was so able to say, we got to get rid of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, because it is so meshed with Hydra. There's no way we can't disentangle them. It's not possible to and still have something intact. Because to him, it's better to burn all of that down and start over than to compromise your values. And so I kind of love that they sent him through this journey of it's not just it's not just the organization. It's not just the country. It's what it stands for. And if it's not standing for that anymore, I can't represent that. I can't be a part of that. Really love that. But I think this movie, it sets the table. I think it sets the table for Age of Ultron and where Steve is. But also it lets us know that Hydra is an ongoing threat. You know, the results of Hydra's work is an ongoing threat in the MCU. It lets us know that, you know, Shield has been a quote shield, but it's no longer enough in this world of, you know, Supermen and, you know, space and all this other stuff. And that also, it's not perfect. It's going to be, you know, we can't rely on just Shield to, you know, to be the Guardians, I guess, because because they're an American apparatus. They're not a world apparatus. And then of course it shows us how Russia responded to the, you know, to Captain America's existence, and how they decided to go ahead and do their, you know, super soldier thing. And at the very end, it sets up again for Age of Ultron, where Loki's scepter is, where is, you know, where are other super people, and ties to the Infinity Saga in general. Do you remember the first time you watched this?
I don't. I try to think about it. So definitely, again, this is after. So I've seen. So when these things were coming out, like I saw Iron Man, I saw some of the random first ones. Like I remember seeing Thor, or maybe it was the second Thor when it came out in theaters. Like I was not into
Mm-hmm.
any of this really. It just wasn't my thing. And then again, I saw Black Panther, and then it just was like
It's my
flipped the
thing.
switch. Something about it. It was like I was like, I need to know more. So it was definitely after that. I can't tell you when, but obviously much later than after this movie premiered
Right.
initially.
DVD, I'm gonna assume.
It was either that or on Disney. Yeah, like already streaming.
It'd been fun if you had watched it on cable, because I'm like, it's a not many people say they still seen things on cable.
You know, it's very possible, but if it was probably still like maybe bits and pieces of it
Yeah.
when it was just, you know, like flipping through channels and you're like, oh, what's this?
I will say this, and now I saw this on DVD. I did not see it in the theater, but I saw it with a group of like nerdy guys. And first of all, we loved it. This checks all the boxes. If you like comic book shit, this checks every box you possibly could need. If you are a fan of the character, it's gonna tick every box. So it was really dope. Everyone loved it with cheer. There's plenty of moments to cheer. But I think this is also this is one of those movies that if this were 20 years ago, you'd be walking by, you know, the TV's on, you're walking by by the TV. And this is on like halfway through, and you're just like, oh, I ain't got nothing to do. Let me sit down and see. I was like, oh, this is my scene. Hold on a second. Holy, it's my scene. Oh, and then you just locked in for another hour. You know, it's people
Yep.
like kids these days. They don't understand because they have it all at their fingertips. They can stop, pause when they don't understand.
Yep.
Flipping through the channels and catching the movie halfway
Nope.
through and been deciding like, nah, this is it.
Not even
This
close.
is my part. This is I think this
remember,
this is definitely one of
I
those
was gonna
movies.
say, I can remember doing that.
Yeah, this is definitely
Like,
one of those movies where you just like, well, I'm
Yep.
locked in for another hour and a half because this shit is on point.
Yep.
Like,
pretty much. I remember just sitting there in college with friends, right? You got nothing to do, no classes happening, and you're just
Mhm.
watching flipping through channels, and you're like, this looks good. Let's watch this. And like you
Exactly.
said, you're in it for another hour and a half.
Yep, exactly. It's worth your time too. Let's talk about standout scenes. That's the 2 or 3 scenes that really to you were the best in this whole movie. What were your standout scenes?
I mean, you got to go elevator scene for one of them for sure.
I
mean,
mean,
You
come
can't not,
on.
can't not. I feel like between that, I feel like at the end, um, when Steve does such a Steve thing and he saves Bucky,
Mhm.
um, you know, he's lifting up that big old pillar off of him, and he's standing there. He's like, "I'm not gonna fight you. You're my friend,"
Yeah.
which is also kind of cheesy at the same time, but also obviously very kind of heartwarming, just knowing their connection from before, even if you've never even you kind of got some of that, even if you've never seen the first Captain America movie, but you know how important that is.
Did you notice how they set that scene up about an hour ahead of time, like maybe 45 minutes before, with the whole when they were at the military camp, and he's
Yep.
recalling Bucky after his mom died and everything. He's like, "I'm with you too." And they set that whole like
Yep.
this is again screenplay is on point because they give you that moment, they give you the end moment right there. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
that's it ties back so nicely.
And then if I had to pick one more, that Nick Fury car chase escape, man, that
Hell
was
yeah.
so good, so good. And you're just like, it just starts off so good. He's just sitting there at the light, and then he gives some lip to the cops, and he's just
Yeah.
like, "Pull me over," and then out of nowhere, right, just like five more cars come in. You're just like,
There's
"What
so
is
yeah, that
happening?"
police brutality in Washington D.C. is wild. Like they did not play that. I'm like, man, look, I had a rear tail light out. It's god dang. They were oddly enough, and I think it was intentional. They were doing a driving while black reference
Yeah,
there. That was
totally.
that, and they were, and because this is Nick Fury, he is the man. He is the most powerful black man in existence. That's not named T'Challa. Uh,
Yep.
and it's
And I
crazy, but
just think,
it's a
yeah,
crazy
that was
little
so good.
thing. Um,
It's also like very, besides being action, it's also very comedic when he's like talking to his like AI
yeah,
assistant in the car. He's just like, "It's not ready yet. Just fire them," or whatever he said. I can't remember, but yeah,
I think there's a little bit of Jarvis to that, so that from
yeah,
Iron Man. Man, I'm gonna try not to cheat and have a ton of scenes here. I agreed. That elevator fight scene is iconic. It's one of the best scenes in all of the MCU. It's it's just the way they set it up. Like Steve, you like it's a character building scene. Oddly enough, because you recognize, oh, he's that dude. He notices. It takes him 2 seconds to realize, oh, it's going down. All right, cool. And as soon he sizes it up, he knows he's got this, and proceeds to beat that ass, like whoop the shit out of 15 dudes in one shot. And he's that guy. Love that. Love the Fury.
real quick to not counter it, but you just made me think of a point when he recognizes all that stuff really quickly, right? Of like what's
Mhm.
happening, but my guy couldn't figure out Sharon Carter wasn't a secret agent.
Hey, you know what? You could he look.
Blinded
he
by good looks, I guess.
Oh, he was definitely I think he was sprung and just didn't know how to deal with it. So I mean, so it's no way she's she likes me not because it's her job. I think
Yeah.
that probably messed up. The reason why he and Sharon never got together wasn't because he's just bad at that. He's just like, man, you just like me because it's your assignment. That's not real. He's looking for the real. What? Okay, the Sam Jackson chase, yes, that was great, especially because it introduces Winter Soldier so well. He's such a badass character in that moment that it's really cool looking. Like it's cool for both of the characters, I think. Also, I would say I'm cheating because I have like 4 or 5 of these. Uh,
You're good.
Natasha asking Steve if he would trust her with to save
Mm,
his life, and he says, I will not. Like, again, great character building moment between the trust that the two of them have by that point in the movie is it's tight. He'll trust her to the end of the world. Because and as he said, I'm always honest. I love that about, like, again, showing who Steve is as a person. um, the freeway fight, that entire sequence where
oh,
where Bucky attacks them
yeah.
with the rest of the Hydra goons or the strike force, and just seeing, because yeah, we know Natasha kicks ass. Yeah, we know Steve. We didn't know Sam went hard like that, but man, he went hard. Like, it's a great introduction for Sam and giving him a good, on the job interview about, yeah, I could be an Avenger, right?
Yep.
Um, and then we had let's see, a last one. Steve's speech to
Mm,
to the Shield agents about, we got to root out Hydra. Stand with me. Dope. Again, that's just Steve being Steve. And then yeah, I'm with you till the end of the line. At the very end, when he and Bucky are fighting on the helicarrier, great scene. Just a great scene in general. There's more, but I mean, I don't want to
yeah.
recount the whole movie.
Right. Pretty much.
What about standout performances? Who were, let's say a honorable mention or a runner up, but your favorite performance in the movie.
Even though he didn't say very much, I think Sebastian Stan just crushed it. Like, just his demeanor, even though he didn't say any words, he said everything with just his eyes for a lot of it, and then his
Mm-hmm.
face. Yeah, it's just obviously part of that is writing and just the way he was presented, but I think he crushed that role. And then obviously for me, honorable mention has to be Chris Evans. Steve Rogers
Mm-hmm.
is just so good.
Yeah, I'm gonna reverse them. My honorable mention is Sebastian Stan. He is, yeah, for a character, even in the comics. You've read the comics by now, I'm sure. He doesn't have a ton of words, right? He's a lot of action, very stoic, kind of like gruff and whatever. But in this one, he has to play confused. He has to play, he's a basically automated soldier. He's goes where he's wanted. He doesn't have feelings, except he does. They're just kind of underneath the programming. He has to play all of that, be extremely capable, and then have some real connecting moments with Steve. So Sebastian Stan, he's doing a ton for a character who doesn't emote a ton, right? A lot of it's body movement and eyes and everything like that. So I think he's really great, especially towards the end of the movie where he's realizing who he is. But I got to give this to Chris Evans. He has almost all of the emotional heavy lifting in this movie. He's optimistic at first and then disillusioned. He's even disillusioned at the very beginning because he's disagreeing with Fury about what he's supposed to be doing. He doesn't like this new world and this weird politics. As he says later to Natasha, I just want to know who I'm fighting, because he doesn't know now he knows, right? He's uncompromising in his morals, but he also, he's unsure of his footing in the world. There's a lot of places he has to go emotionally, and he has to be able to also be very much an ass kicker, a take charge ass kicker that he calls the plays and people follow through on them, and he has to be the one. I even noticed he did the whole thing like at the end where Maria Hill's like, "You're still on the carry. I don't want to shoot you down." He's like, "No, do it right now."
Yeah.
As he said in Avengers, and what was his thing he said to Iron Man, his criticism: "You're not the one to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on the line so somebody can go over you." Right? And that was him doing his sacrifice play. I'll die. This needs to happen. Right? He's Cap. Like he is Cap as I understood it, as a comic book character, as kind of a paragon of what America should be. And Chris Evans embodies it so well. Like, I feel, I'm not saying nobody else can be Captain America, but boy, they got big shoes to fill, because Chris Evans is Captain America. And I absolutely love his performance in this.
For sure. Yeah.
We're going to pause right now because we got to do the Stan Lee watch, where we see our man, Stan the Man, the godfather of, if you will, of the Marvel universe. And he shows up in all of these things. He shows up in more movies than Joe Russo, which is wild, because Joe Russo, he's got his doppelgangers throughout the MCU, but so does Stan Lee. So where does Stan Lee show up here? He is a security guard. Once again, he's a security guard, but he's a security guard at the Captain America exhibit. And his line exactly, because Cap has to go get his suit. He has to go get his period accurate suit. Which, by the way, how that suit didn't tear apart immediately, I don't believe that. This shit is 60, 70 years old. Whatever. Anyway, the point is, he goes and steals the suit from the Smithsonian, and Stan Lee's character is just like, "I am so fired," and I'm like, "You are, you are not keeping your job. How'd that happen?" Very good to see. Yeah, it's great to see Stan whenever he shows up. Love that one. We still got to talk about that ending, though. Was it a Marvel ending, Joe? You know how I feel about the so-called Marvel ending. Pew pew, lots of
Yeah,
CG, muddy. Like, was it that one or was it one of the good Marvel endings?
it was definitely a good one for sure. It was definitely a Marvel ending. I mean, just basically the whole helicarrier
Yeah.
falling fight scene was the ending essentially. But as we have mentioned, it was done really well. We can see what's happening for the most part, right? It's not just like CG for the sake of CG.
Hmm.
It's you can tell what's actually happening. And there are, like we have mentioned, some better moments instead of just like people just straight up killing each other again with Steve and Bucky at the end there and whatnot. So it was it, it was that, but not it done well, tastefully.
Yeah, I think I like the fact that it was first of all, it is, but like I don't think it's a bad one. I think it's a great Marvel ending. It's four different things are happening. They pace it so well that I'm not confused about what's happening. They all feed into each other. Everything, every person's individual struggle is interesting. The CG's not muddy and weird or hard to follow. All the action makes sense, but ultimately it leads up to that one-on-one fight, right? It leads to Pierce being dealt with by Nick Fury, and we it's all a good payoff. I don't feel like they're just throwing CG out there just to be spectacle. It all leads to something important. So in that sense, no, I mean it is a Marvel ending, but I think it's such a well executed one that it makes sense and it doesn't make you feel like they don't really have any structure beyond shoot at everything, throw people at something. It's very I think it's a very good one. One of the best
For
ones, in
sure.
fact. We also got to talk about the credit scenes.
Mm.
These are interesting ones. I feel like they are they are extremely important because yes, they are clearly leading to something else. It's the expectation that the credit scene lead to something is a thing, right? So the most important one, of course, being the revealing the twins, revealing Pietro and Wanda, and that Strucker is still out there. Baron Strucker is still out there doing his thing, but they're powered by an Infinity Stone. So we're tying back to the Infinity saga, and we're also introducing more superpowered characters. That as and also it's more accurate because Wanda and Pietro were initially villains before they were ever Avengers. So that was a very cool thing. And of course, we saw Bucky
Yeah.
um, at the end credit, seeing himself, his at the Captain America Museum, and what does that mean? What's he going to do with himself in the future? So, how do you feel about these
Yep.
scenes?
I thought it was like you said. I feel like definitely they're setting something up. Obviously, with the twins, they obviously had plans. They were supposed to be in, and obviously are in Age of Ultron, right? Um, and like you said, set up as villains, like they're supposed to be beforehand before they become Avengers. I feel like, well, I don't want to rag on every end credit scene, but like some of the more recent ones are more like open ended,
Yeah,
right? They're not necessarily like planned out things for the future. They're just like, we're going to leave this here.
maybe we'll
Someone in
talk
the
about it.
future might be able to do something with
Yeah,
this, right? Where this is obviously, it was well thought out, well planned ahead. And like the fact that you're going to get um, Elizabeth Olsen and
Aaron
Aaron Taylor
Taylor
Johnson, right?
Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah. To be like, hey, you guys, we need you for a scene. You're literally in it for like 30 seconds and it's going to be all green screen, but
yeah,
it's leading up to what you're going to be in next, right?
yeah.
um, Again, just a huge plan. And like you had mentioned, we're tying back. We have Loki's scepter. We know where that is, and
Hmm.
it's tying back to the Infinity Saga. Um, and Strucker's still out there, obviously. So still rearing Hydra's head. Just he's kind of going off grid now, sort of based on what he said in the end scene. He's like, we're gonna do our own thing for the most part.
Yeah,
We're just gonna lay quiet. Um, and then obviously at the end of the movie we learn that Bucky has feelings, like you had mentioned. It's underneath all the programming. He ends up saving Steve, leaves him leaves him up on the shore. And even before he got like reprogrammed in the middle of the movie, he was like, "Who was that guy
Mm-hmm.
that I saw on the bridge?" Right? He was like, "Who's Bucky?" Um, and so something's there, right? Obviously, and now he's
Right.
like seeing himself, and he's like, "Oh shit, what the hell is this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously that leads to much other stuff, and obviously ultimately a rehab of
Of the character.
his regular self. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it mirrors what happens in the comics. I will say this very much about the Captain America movies really lean heavily on the comics, which for to their credit, because the comics are amazing. So leaning so heavily on those stories, it was I think a big part of why that trilogy did so well. All this being said, you know what time it is. It's time to rate this bad boy. We're gonna rate it as usual on the Infinity Rewatch out of Infinity Stones 1 through 6. So is he still looking for? Is Thanos still looking for that first one to go in that little gauntlet of his, or is he snapping everything out of existence, or or at least half of the life in the universe out of existence? What do you think?
I feel like I have a hard time giving things a full six sometimes or 100% because there's always something. But I mean, he's like literally, he's like this, he's like that. If I have to give it like, it's, he's like putting the sixth one in right now. It's like touching the gauntlet.
I'm gonna count it as 6 then. I'll count that as 6. That sounds to me
That's fair.
like
It's
to
pretty darn close.
yeah, to me, Thanos is looking at Thor and saying you should have went for the head, because this bad boy is a 6. This is an S tier movie. This is an evergreen MCU. If you ever want someone to know why the MCU is so awesome, this is one of the movies you tell them about. You put it up there with Avengers. You put it up there with Black Panther. This is a 6. Not in. You can tell because when I went to the bad's really not bad. It was just like I got a nitpick. If I got to nitpick a movie to get something bad to say, it's on point. This is one of the best superhero movies of all time. Uh, I loved it. I love this movie so much. I recommend everyone. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing. But if you have seen it, watch it again because it's so great.
I feel like I need to go back and watch more, like everything else again, just so I can give it, uh, not that I don't believe it's a six, but like be like, oh yeah, this is definitely a six, and be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
because that's definitely a three
It's I think some of it's a feeling too. But I look,
for sure.
I know a movie's a 6 from I know a movie's a top tier movie for me. I've seen it multiple times and I still pop off at all the time. Like this movie, I'm sure my neighbors was like, "Who is he yelling at?" And I'm like, "Look, I'm yelling at the TV because this shit is awesome. That's why." So, oh man, all that we covered a lot of ground here. But what did you all think about this movie? What did you think about what we had to say? You know what to do. Get down to the comments and leave your thoughts. And of course, you can always hit me up. Supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com. Blurred_force1 on Instagram and Threads. Super_not_funny show on TikTok. And while you're doing that, do me a favor, get down there, hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. All that good stuff helps to grow this channel, helps more people to see this podcast and all of the other content on Blurred Force 1. And of course, I couldn't do this rewatch by myself. I needed my good friend Joe to come in and give his insight on this movie. So, Joe, where can they reach you on social media, and tell them a little bit about your channel?
You can find me on YouTube and Threads at Muscles and the Multiverse. Basically, I like to do explainer videos for the most part on my YouTube channel, kind of like blending into comic book lore of what we're seeing of characters within the MCU. And then you'll also find like some commentary or review stuff on um, current things that are on MCU, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
TV shows or movies, stuff like that. That's basically mostly of what I do for the most part.
Yeah, I will also add there's also a Discord that you can come check out. The
That's right.
Earth's Mightiest Nerds, I believe, and
Yep.
you do run a comic book club thing where we read
Yep.
a specific comic. So it's all interesting stuff. If you want to get involved in the comic book space, check out Joe's socials and his Discord and his channel. So thanks everyone for joining us on this episode of the Marvel Infinity Rewatch podcast. So you guys come back and check us out then. So until then, I've been Mo, your comic extraordinaire on all things pop culture, joined by my good friend Joe. I'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.